Hey guys, I want to welcome you back to another episode of Pistons Talk Podcast presented by FanDuel. Hope you guys had a great 4th of July holiday weekend. We have some things to discuss and get into on the podcast today. We'll be going over 4 segments. First segment is Kevin Durant. There's more KD stuff we have to talk about. Pistons fans are just grasping at straws at this point. We're going to go over that. Second segment we'll be getting into is we have more details with John Collins and his contract, what the first year number is, and what the numbers are for his non-guaranteed years in year 2 and year 3. We'll also be getting into Peyton Watson. Looks like the Denver Nuggets are seeking a sign-in trade. Kind of talk about him. Is it a possibility for the Detroit Pistons? And then we will end the podcast with our sponsors presented by FanDuel. So should be a really good episode. So Kevin Durant, let's talk about it, you guys. I wake up in just a panic because I'm thinking something meaningful happened. It's just Pistons fans overreacting like they always do every offseason. I love you guys, but need to freaking chill out. I wake up to like 10 text messages, like 12 plus DMs on Twitter. My Instagram's blowing up. I thought we traded for Kevin Durant. The reason why my socials were blowing up is because of this. And I'm going to put an image on the screen if you're watching live on YouTube. If you're an audio listener, I'll explain what the image is. So this comes from Unbiased Pistons fans on Twitter. Really good Pistons follow. He says, Kevin Durant posted himself in a Detroit hat on Instagram with the eyeball emojis. Now, if you look and you just glance at the hat, you're like, oh, that's an old English D 100%. Like, is Kevin Durant actually like kind of like hinting he wants to get traded to the Detroit Pistons? But if you look at it closely, that is not an old English D whatsoever. I did maybe 60 seconds of just some research of what this hat is, where it comes from. And Kevin Durant wore this during the Olympics. And this is actually a brand that you can purchase on his website. And the website is called dripsoldseparate.com. Now, that is not an old English D. This is on his website directly. We just kind of took a screenshot and a screen grab from his website to kind of show you guys that that is not an old English D. Kevin Durant is not signaling that he wants to get traded to the Detroit Pistons. It's just a damn hat, you guys. And I get it. It's July. There's no basketball for, and if you don't count Summer League, there's no basketball until October. So we got like 3 months. Only sport on right now is baseball. If you're watching the FIFA World Cup because you just need something to watch, I understand it. I get it. But you guys, it is a hat. Now, there were reports from Brett Siegel of Clutch Points that Kevin Durant does have interest in playing with Cade Cunningham. We discussed those twice last week on separate podcasts about Kevin Durant wanted to play with Cade Cunningham. There's interest there, but it really depends what Houston wants to do, right? Houston, going into last season, before the Fred VanVleet injury occurred, like a lot of experts had, I should say, Houston as a top 4 team in the Western Conference, and they still haven't seen what this team could look like with a Fred VanVleet, with a KD, with another year of Amen Thompson, Alperen Sengun. Like, they have a really solid squad in Houston. I doubt they want to blow it up just 1 year after getting bounced in the first round against the Lakers. And by the way, KD was hurt during that playoff series, wasn't really right. So I'm sure Houston still wants to see, what a Kevin Durant looks like on their basketball team, but they haven't ruled out that he's an untouchable whatsoever. They haven't. Like, they're open to listening to trade discussions, and right off the bat, like, I could automatically see them asking for Asar. I could see them, asking about Ron. But again, it really depends what you're comfortable with if you're a Piston fan of, acquiring a Kevin Durant next to Cade Cunningham. I think it's just like that scoring option. He makes sense. He's a scoring option that I think a lot of us have talked about on these podcasts, on previous live stream shows that we've had about getting Cade, that secondary scorer. Kevin Durant checks every box that you're looking for a secondary scorer. But I also kind of just want to like be unbiased and not like talk like a Detroit Pistons fan right now. If you look at his previous stops after Golden State, it didn't work in Brooklyn. Even though if his toe was on the line, maybe they win that playoff series. If you guys know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. Didn't work in Brooklyn. Just didn't. Didn't work in Phoenix. Phoenix was just a disaster. Like, you could just tell no one on that team liked each other. Didn't work in Phoenix. So far, it hasn't worked in Houston. But Houston was because their starting point guard was injured and they didn't have a starting point guard. Does it work in Detroit? I'm not sure. Some people have said, like, hey, Anthony, like, KD is an undeniable talent, one of the best scorers of our generation, but, like, his past couple of stops have been a disaster. They haven't been great. Like, what makes you think it's going to be any different if we gut our team to try to get Cade a Kevin Durant? I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. Like, could it be a disaster? Could we gut, part of our team to get Cade that secondary scorer and it doesn't work? We don't get to the Eastern Conference Finals. We don't make the NBA Finals, and we kind of have to retool on the fly and still try to build around Cade while he's under contract. Does Cade get frustrated? Those are all questions that we don't have answers to. They're just not. But I still think Kevin Durant is one of the best isolation scorers in our game. Can score at all three levels. Still extremely efficient, even at his age. Again, I'm not opposed to trading for Kevin Durant. You would just have to walk me through, like, what are you giving up to get KD? But I did want to discuss it on the podcast with you guys for a couple of minutes. Again, I thought we traded for the man, considering how my phone just blew up with the text messages, with the DMs on Instagram and Twitter and even Facebook. Like, I thought we traded for him. It was just Pistons fans thinking that was an old English D. And, like, if you're from Detroit and you can't recognize an old English D at a glance, that's a problem, man. That's a problem. All you have to do is take 2 seconds, look at the D. It looks like a Temu version of a D, and then there's like some SS right above the D. It's like, come on, man. What are we doing? What are we doing? But I love you guys. I love you guys. You're giving me content to talk about when it is dry season. But wanted just to talk about it, debunk the, he's wearing a Detroit Tigers hat. He wants to come to Detroit conversation. But I want to get into our second segment, and that is Trey Murphy. Let's get into segment 2, Trey Murphy trade talk. Now, I know we did a podcast discussing that the Pelicans wanted 3 future firsts in any trade for Trey Murphy. We have learned that their asking price has actually gone down. They were asking for 4 future first-round picks. Now it's 3. Reading articles, it sounds like that the front office, Joe Dumars, Troy Weaver, and that organization, they see the market of like what a Desmond Bane went last summer for, 4 future first from the Grizzlies to Orlando. And they're like, hey, like, we think Trey Murphy's better than Desmond Bane. Why can't we get that same type of trade offer? They look at players like a Mikal Bridges that went for 4 or 5 first round picks between the Brooklyn Nets and the New York Knicks. Like, they kind of look at those 2 trade packages and believe like, hey, like, we honestly believe that Trey Murphy is in that same type of tier, that same type of archetype of player that you can put in a winning organization and you'll be happy with, paying us either 3 or 4 first round picks. Now, my understanding is a lot of teams around the NBA have called New Orleans about Trey Murphy, and then we got a tweet today basically shutting down the Pelicans' interest of even moving him. And it said the Pelicans are satisfied with keeping Trey Murphy and will only consider trading him if they're blown away by an offer. And this comes from Fear the Brow over on Twitter. Now, it's not saying that they will not trade Trey Murphy, but they're standing firm on what their asking price is. Like, they honestly believe 3 first-round picks and then matching salaries for what he's making is perfectly fair. Now, when you talk about the Pistons, can the Pistons get up to a Trey Murphy contract price? 100%. I mean, you're talking about including Karis LeVert because he's on that mid-level exception on the final year of a deal. In any trade, you're probably involving Ron Holland. You're not giving them a star. You're basically telling them anyone but a star. So you're throwing in Ron Holland just to make the salary work, and he's like a young piece that they would probably covet because he's a potential two-way forward. And then you're throwing in the 3 first-round picks and maybe like a really low salary guy, maybe like a Chaz Lanier. I don't know. Like, does that really like get the ball moving for them? I'm not entirely sure. I'm not sure. Other teams around the league, like Golden State, Atlanta, the Lakers, like so many teams, even Boston, because they've got more future first now from trading Jaylen Brown. Like, so many teams around the league are going to be calling him. And I see a lot of Pistons fans so frustrated with this offseason, and I understand it. It's not for a lack of trying. Like, the Pistons have tried. These deals just keep falling apart on the other team's end. Like, they just kind of get cold feet and back out. I think if you understand who's in charge down in New Orleans, this makes so much sense from just an asset management standpoint. Like, I have respect for Troy Weaver, the way he was able to tear down the studs, rebuild, and open up cap space to make sure that the Pistons had clean books. Like, I respect that. You know, you got your franchise guy in Cade Cunningham. You know, the 2020 draft, obviously, Killian was like really the only like miss I would say he had in terms of just like a draft bust. But, you know, Sadiq Bey is still a really good player in the NBA. Isaiah Stewart is an elite shot blocker. He's going to be playing for the Grizzlies. You know, you got Cade. You know, obviously in 22, you were able to trade up to get Durant. You selected Jaden Ivey. I don't think anyone saw Jaden Ivey crashing out and burning out of the league. Jaden Ivey was still kind of regarded as a top-tier prospect. A lot of fans were really happy that he was there at 5. I remember the debates between Keegan Murray and Jaden Ivey. Like, Jaden Ivey was a good pick. Again, like him crashing out and just flaming out of the league, I don't think anyone saw coming. Like, no one could have predicted that. In 23, you were able to draft Asar Thompson, which I'm sure a lot of Pistons fans are extremely happy with. You traded up for Marcus Sasser, which is looking like he's going to be a Dallas Maverick pretty soon. So, I mean, you kind of just talk about the drafts that Troy had from 2020 to 23. Like, he did a really good job of identifying talent, tearing down the studs, and rebuilding. But right now in New Orleans, they're kind of having the same approach of an asset management standpoint where they value the asset more than what the market value is telling them what it's worth, right? Like, Trey Murphy might go for, 2 solid first-round picks and maybe a rotational player. Like, maybe it's a high-level rotational player, 6-man type of player that could help you in the win column or, kind of help you build a team the way Jamal Mosley wants to build a team, right? But they're standing firm on the 3 first-round picks, possibly 4. Going down the 4 to 3 is just like, hey, man, like, got you $1. You guys know the old Geico commercial with the guy just like on the fishing hook type of thing. Really bad analogy by me. I don't even know why that popped in my head. It's just kind of just rambling right now. But again, the Trey Murphy trade talk, I think he's going to stay in New Orleans. I'd be very surprised if they moved him. Seems like they're holding firm on like what they want to do and how they want to build a team. You look in the West, like that's an incredibly tough conference. The only team I could say for certain that they're going to be better than next year is the Sacramento Kings. You could have a debate about Phoenix. You could have a debate about Dallas with getting Kyrie Irving back, and Dallas has got a brand new, innovative, smart head coach in Dusty May. The West is just so stacked. Like, they are probably a 30-win play-in tournament team if they stay healthy. And you look at their roster, it's kind of trying to do 2 things at once. We have vets in Najante Murray, Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, Zion Williamson, but we also have young guys in Derek Queen and Jeremiah Fears. So it feels like they're trying to do 2 things at once and not committing to an identity, not committing to one direction. And eventually they're going to have to tear down the studs and just start over and rebuild, because you look at their salary, you look at their salary cap, they're past the tax line. They're pretty damn close to the first apron. And a team that statistically might finish anywhere from 10th to possibly 15th. It's got to get torn down. But I know ownership down there doesn't believe in rebuild, so they're just going to kind of keep building. But did want to discuss the Trey Murphy trade talk with you guys for a couple of minutes. Sounds like the Pelicans are just going to hold on to him until they're blown away from an offer. But I don't see too many teams, those forking over 3 first-round picks and then trying to match his salary. It just gets to a point where it's just a little bit too much for a guy in Trey Murphy. That is talent, don't get me wrong, 20-point per game scorer, but I think the Pelicans are going to have to lower their asking price if they want teams to actually throw them a real offer sheet. So segment 3 is Peyton Watson. Is he actually available? Could the Detroit Pistons make a swing for him? and why I'm really annoyed after reading this. Let's get into the tweet. This comes from Polymarket Hoops that are citing Sam Amick of The Athletic, same reporter that was all over the Jalen Duren with the Lakers and the Kings news last week. It says, just in, the Denver Nuggets are open in signing and trading Peyton Watson, end quote. So I want to get into why I'm annoyed and if it is a possibility that the Pistons could try to go get him. Why I'm annoyed. The reason why I'm annoyed is for 2 weeks, we were told by reporters, national reporters, and even local reporters in Denver that Peyton Watson most likely was going to be retained by Denver. They were going to bring him back. They were going to do anything necessary. If that meant trading Cam Johnson, whatever it may be, they wanted Peyton Watson back. And now they're open to a sign-and trade. Why I'm annoyed is it's probably too late for the Pistons to try to maneuver a sign-and-trade situation. It was just announced that the Isaiah Joe trade is official, and he was used through their non-taxpayer mid-level exception. So $11 million of his salary is going to the MLE, and the MLE is around $15 million. So that's why I'm annoyed. One, happy that Isaiah Joe's on the team. The reason why I'm really annoyed is because it's so late into free agency. It's the 6th. It's so late into free agency right now. That's why I'm annoyed, because I like John Collins at the power forward position, but I think we can all agree Peyton Watson is a much better defender than John Collins or Tobias Harris ever was in their prime. He's just so versatile as a defender. I know he's 6'8". I know he's a little bit undersized. Some of you guys say that he's undersized at the power forward position. I don't really think so. He's such a good defender. Like, I love Peyton Watson. 40% from 3 too. He has really developed as a shooter. Would have been a perfect fit. Ideally, the type of contract that I've read from some blog post over in Denver is around $25 million a year. Like, John Collins is at 16 in his first year, which we'll be going over his contract next. That's not a whole lot. You have almost $9 million, $8.7 million to be exact, of a trade exception that is going to expire tomorrow that you possibly could have used in a trade to try to lure him, away from Denver. The possibility of the Pistons getting him, I think, is slim to none. I think the one team that is still in the running for him is the Los Angeles Clippers. Even with the Rui Hachimura 2 years, $28 million signing they made earlier, they can still swing a sign-and-trade deal for Peyton Watson because they got a trade exception from the Pistons for the John Collins trade. So it kind of all, comes back to the John Collins stuff. Like, Peyton Watson would have been really fun to watch in Detroit, but it looks like the Clippers, if Denver does elect to sign and trade him, that's where he could end up going. Obviously, his girlfriend is from the California, Los Angeles area, so maybe he wants to be closer to her. But, man, it's annoying. It's also annoying because Denver has actually stopped teams from trading for Cameron Johnson, who's on the final year of an expiring deal. So I don't really know what Denver's trying to do. Obviously, they kind of want to keep their core intact and still be a competitive team in the Western Conference, but man, Peyton Watson would have been such a good fit, but seems like Denver just kind of waited on this too long, and there's not too many teams that are really going to be able to offer them real money to get up to his price point. But did want to discuss it for a little bit. I do see a couple of you guys comment about Peyton Watson. Could he be a target for the Detroit Pistons in free agency after these deals are becoming official? Doesn't look like it. Like I mentioned, the Isaiah Joe deal just became official. Abuka Corey and Ugonna Onyenso has signed their rookie deals with the team. Still waiting to hear the Isaiah Stewart trade and the John Collins sign-in trade to become official today. But did want to kind of just discuss the Peyton Watson sign-in trade. I guess Denver wants to possibly get off of him now, which is really annoying and frustrating. But we're going to get into our final topic of the podcast, and that is John Collins. We have some contract details of what he's going to be making this upcoming season with the Pistons, so let's get into that. So John Collins, we're going to be going over his 3-year contract, what the price figures look like. So we'll be putting a graphic on the screen for you guys to follow along, and we'll be reading it out loud as well. So the contract details for John Collins, where the only first year is fully guaranteed, that number is going to be set at $16.2 million. Again, in the season of 2026-27, this upcoming season, he was only guaranteed at $16.2 million. The following season in 2027-28, he'll be making $17 million. That is non-guaranteed. And the final year of his contract in 2028-29, it is set at $17.8 million, non-guaranteed. So a total of 3 years, $51 million for John Collins on the Detroit Pistons. Now, if you guys remember, Tobias Harris signed a 2-year deal with the San Antonio Spurs, and he was at like 15 and a half. John Collins' first year of his contract is at 16.2 to be exact. So not much difference in price point between Tobias Harris and John Collins. Obviously, it was reported that the Detroit Pistons could only really guarantee 1 full year. That's why Tobias did elect to play with the San Antonio Spurs. He wanted 2 guaranteed years. And obviously, John Collins' contract was structured in a way where the Pistons could guarantee him 1 year, but the final 2 years were non-guaranteed, much like Duncan Robinson's contract, how it was structured in a sign and trade with the Miami Heat. So if it doesn't work out this season, the Pistons can get off that money pretty easily with non-guaranteed deals. They're not attached to long-term money, so the longer that he is on the roster going into the season of 2027-28, meaning he'll make more money. But if you cut him right away in the offseason, you're not attached to that money. You can generate more cap space and more money that way. If things just go completely south, or let's just say, knock on wood, hopefully he's not. He's just injured and it just didn't work out. You could definitely do that. But did kind of want to update you guys on the John Collins, salary, the numbers, kind of like what he's going to be at. Before we do wrap up this podcast, we have to hear from our sponsors over at the FanDuel Sportsbook, you guys. So right now we have NBA future odds on Eastern Conference winner. And let's go over it real quick. So New York Knicks, defending champs, odds-on favorite at a plus 290, followed by the Boston Celtics at a plus 440, Toronto Raptors at a plus 750, along with the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Detroit Pistons at 750, and the Philadelphia 76ers at a plus 850, even after trading for Jaylen Brown. So maybe they anticipate Joel Embiid getting injured again. Which would be absolutely tragic for them. But they have Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe. But was kind of surprised to see Philly actually as low as they did after the trade for Jaylen Brown. Knicks being on top, being the defending champs, that is not too big of a surprise. But, a 3-way tie between the Pistons, the Cleveland Cavaliers, and the Toronto Raptors after acquiring Kawhi Leonard. The East is going to be a bloodbath this year. 100% is. But let me know what you guys think of today's podcast. Talked about Kevin Durant and the hats. Can't believe we talked about a hat for 7 minutes on a podcast. Man, I love you guys for giving me content. Also kind of talked about the John Collins contract, Peyton Watson, and Trey Murphy. I'll talk to you guys down below in the comment section. Like always, hope you guys are staying safe. And as always, go Pistons. Peace.